Okay, we're back. The day after Christmas. I hope everybody had a wonderful Christmas. Coin is down currently about 3.80%, so almost 4%, turning down off the 10 and 20 period moving average. A little bit more about that in just a moment. I think that's two things currently putting pressure on Bitcoin. Really three things. One is the Fed, and again, the Fed reducing the outlook of aggressive rate cuts in 2025. They went from 4 down to 2. From September's meeting with the estimate for the Fed funds rate went from 4 cuts in 2025 down to 2. Now we also have another reason is the odds of President Trump launching a strategic Bitcoin reserves in the first 100 days is dropping on Poly Market, which dropped about 31%. So again, it's just another excuse for the sell-off, which again, Bitcoin became overbought. The divergences are playing out. The question is it a pullback now, or is it the start of a reversal? That's the $64,000 question. Another thing happening is we're seeing huge outflows. BlackRock Bitcoin ETF sees record 188 million outflow. BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF saw its largest ever single day outflow as Bitcoin funds notched a fourth straight trading day of outflows totaling more than 1.5 billion. And again, the BlackRock Bitcoin ETF hit 188.7 million in outflows on December 24th, surpassing the previous record of 72 million set on December 20th. So again, we are seeing distribution take place at key resistance levels. We may get above that resistance and go to the next level of resistance. We are seeing distribution at the levels I've been talking about. And those are the reasons why, at least the reasons being given, seeing resistance and we're seeing distribution there. That's what it comes down to. I told you in my last update that Bitcoin is trying to bounce off VWAP support and this horizontal support. We've got 3 levels here of horizontal support, and currently Bitcoin is trying to bounce off of the VWAP support here from the breakout and back test point right here. The VWAP support is holding at the moment. If we break it, then again, either start a reversal or get a bigger pullback if you start taking out the horizontal support levels that I've been talking about, which we keep trying to bounce off of right in here. Again, possible head and shoulders, but if we get a bigger sell-off, you still may move to new highs. We are seeing distribution at the moment. Again, I warned you with the Gravestone Doji, at the key resistance with the bearish divergences that had set up, you're going to see a sell-off in all likelihood. Could give us a pullback or a reversal. Big of a pullback, we don't know yet, but here again, bearish signals remain. We get a bigger pullback, again, the breakout point right here from our breakout and back test right here could be tested, end up getting a bigger sell-off that could take us down to the 72,000 area. Try to get an arrow here to turn back to bullish, but it has not yet flipped the momentum line. The momentum line is still bearish in the daily time frame, and again, a balance of power is still bearish. We've still got red going on here. We've had bars orange reflecting the trend, and now again they're turning red here, trying to again, the momentum remains negative. So again, the bulls have to come in and flip all this around if we're going to resume the advance. Otherwise, we're at risk of a bigger sell-off. I'll show you both bullish and bearish levels of support and resistance there in this video. We're seeing these divergences play out. We had it here with momentum. We had it on the RSI. We had it on the MACD and other indicators. The daily time frame, we're now seeing that play out. Is horizontal support going to be taken out? And we end up getting a bigger dump, and our 50 period moving average in the daily time frame currently acting as support. Bitcoin's getting rejection at the 20 period moving average and the 10 as it crosses the 20 period moving average. It's trying to bounce off the 50. Over here, try to bounce off the 50, bounce off the 50, bounce off the 50. Again, now we're testing it again. If we take out the green line, the 50-period moving average, and then after that, horizontal support right here, this line right here, which again, we found support at it here, 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 and now we're coming back towards it again here. Right now we're at the 50-period moving average right there. If we take out that 50, then this level could come into play again. Again, you got possibility of a head and shoulders pattern. Left shoulder here, head formation, maybe the right shoulder here, or we go up, we sell off and we still, dance around this area and we form a right shoulder, like something like that. That's the risk, that Bitcoin stops making new highs. And again, I'll show you the trend lines in the video. I'll show you the monthly chart. We'll be looking at the monthly chart. Do we get a topping tail? And that's all she wrote. And the topping tail here with our gravestone doji that was confirmed and got a follow through led to this 15% decline right here that could evolve into something bigger. Or again, do we still go up to the upper channel line? I still think there's a strong possibility that happens. To blow off top, that would take us closer towards 120,000, maybe as high as 125,000 if we take our time reaching that trend line. You'll see it in this video. Now, if we drop below the 50 period and then the 10 and 20 drop below the 50 period, then we can get a much bigger sell-off. Then you're at risk of a reversal and risk of a top having been in place. We'll be watching. Again, you could still more distribution and go higher, and I'll be showing you what levels to be watching. But right now we're watching this horizontal support in our 50 period to see if, again, this level is going to hold as support. We'll be talking about these resistance trend lines. We were told there was no way we were going to turn down off of them, but yet we are. The question is, are we just getting a pullback, and is it going to be bigger? Is it going to be smaller? Or it's not a pullback, is it a reversal? So we'll be watching closely. Support the channel with the link directly below. That allows me to be able to provide you this information. You like the charts, you like the indicators, let me know that. Supporting the channel today. Have any sponsors? I turn all those offers down because I don't want to sell you stuff. I just have a direct relationship with you. If you can take a moment to partner with me and help out, I would really, really appreciate that. I thank you for your consideration for that. The risk is Bitcoin gets a bigger dump. We're now seeing the 10 cross below the 20 in the daily time frame, the 50 cross below the 200 here in the 4-hour time frame. You've got the triangle, which could be a right shoulder. The head formation, we formed the bull flag coming with the breakout of the triangle and back test. And then the rally up to resistance levels. We got the topping tails here in the 4-hour time frame here. And on the daily chart, we got that gravestone doji. And now we've come back here. So again, do we end up forming a right shoulder here or dance around this area for a while and better define it and then get the right shoulder and break down and get a bigger sell-off? Does the sell-off give us a reversal or just a deeper pullback in the larger uptrend? So we'll be watching for clues, but you are getting a bearish death cross here in the 4-hour time frame of the 50 and the 200. You are getting a bearish cross of the 10 and the 20 in the daily time frame. So far, the cloud right here, we broke the cloud and it's acting as resistance along with our moving averages here in the 4-hour time frame and our 20-period moving average in the daily time frame. Again, if you watch the video all the way through, I'll show you support levels like this horizontal support and our 50-period moving average in the daily time frame, and I'll show you the resistance levels like right here at these moving averages, the cloud, and the 20-day moving average in the daily time frame. The MACD and the RSI, the MACD is rolling over here in the 4-hour time frame, the RSI turning back down below 50. So again, we could be confirming a lower high as we're getting the death cross there. And again, if we get it, it could lead to a bigger sell-off. Or again, like I said, we could dance around here and still, set up the right shoulder, but it may not be done yet if we end up seeing a bigger sell-off and starting to come back down and take out the horizontal support level right here, down here at this 92,000 area. Also in the 4-hour time frame, I told you again we were setting up this divergence with pring parameter in the 4-hour time frame, the divergence in the daily time frame, the divergence here in the 4-hour time frame. That's caused pring parameter to go negative. So there's risk of a bigger drop as long as pring parameter is in negative territory. And if we now that we've got this death cross going on here, if we take out support, there's risk of a much bigger drop for Bitcoin. And I didn't draw that very straight, but if we end up seeing support levels taken out, the 50 period on the daily chart, then Bitcoin could see a bigger sell-off. Doesn't mean that it can't still move to a new high, but again, we could see a bigger sell-off that could possibly be a reversal. Less signals can turn back to bullish here in the 4-hour time frame, in the daily time frame, watching for clues. But right now, daily signals are bearish, weekly signals are still bullish. Bulls are in control in the daily or in the weekly time frame. The bears are in control in the daily time frame. Watching as the bulls and bears fight it out. It's possible we've completed a blow off top at the trend lines I've been talking about, but we still may get above them and reach that 120,000 area, or maybe even above it if we take our time reaching upper channel that I've been talking about in the weekly time frame with our log scaling. You'll see it in this video. Now, I warned you before the selling ever started, when we were back up here at the 108,000 area, we were slamming into the trend lines of resistance that I've been talking about. And I told you, again, we very well could see a sell-off there, and it could be a pullback and eventually clear that level, a big pullback, a mild pullback. So far, we've seen a 15% drop and trying to find support here at the 50-period moving average, a green line right there. But I told you it could be a bigger pullback, a mild pullback in a pullback, or it could be the start of reversal. We also have a possible head and shoulders that could be under construction if we start trying to get a reversal with these divergences that have formed, if it creates a top. Now, again, it could just be a pullback. We don't know yet. It's too soon. Still think you got a good shot at Bitcoin going higher, hitting the upper channel line. And the longer we take to reach it, the higher that trend line goes. Right now, it's getting closer to that 120 to 125,000 range. Trend line's a target, not some number. The longer we take to reach the trend line, which I'll show you in a moment, the higher the trend line goes, which means the higher Bitcoin goes. We had the divergence here with momentum. We had the divergences here on the RSI and the MACD. Multiple point divergence here on the RSI. The MACD got a divergence right here. And as what I'm watching for is, do we break support? Do we break the 50 here? End up getting a bigger sell-off to the 100 period and maybe this trend line, including the shadow or excluding the shadow. If we end up breaking this support area, do we get a bigger drop? And again, excluding the shadow takes us towards the 100 period, including the shadow takes us beyond it and towards the peak over here at the March high, which is at the 73,700 range. So we'll be watching to see. And again, you got a possible head and shoulders. If you have that set up, you could come down here and get a bigger sell-off. You still could end up going to higher levels, even if we get a bigger sell-off. So do keep that in mind. We'll be watching the weekly signals. Do the weekly signals remain bullish? Bulls are still in control in the weekly time frame, even though these divergences are playing out. And we've seen a 15% sell-off since they have formed. And since I warned you, we were slamming up into that trend line, forming these divergences. The two trend lines I've talked about still may exceed them and still end up forming the channel, moving to the upper boundary of the channel with the in the weekly time frame with the log scaling. Now here on the RSI, I told you to be watching to see if we hold above 50. Well, we broke the 50 level here. We broke the trend line. Okay, we broke the trend line here, the black one, and we dropped below 50. We try to get back above it. Now we're dropping below it again. So again, if we remain below 50 consistently, we can take out the 50 period here, end up with a 50-50 sell signal here in the daily time frame, below the 50 period, below the 50 on the RSI, and that could give us a bigger sell-off. If we find support here, then again, we got to see everything flip back to bullish in the daily time frame if we're going to resume the advance. But right now, signals are bearish, and we've rallied back up to the 10 and 20 period moving average, which are declining, and now the 10 is crossing the 20 period moving average. So we're getting rejection off of those areas. So again, I'll be watching, do we stay below 50 now? We drop back below it after trying to get back above it here after breaking the trend line. And do we stay below that? Do we drop below the 50 period moving average? And if we do we take out horizontal support? I've talked about the support over and over again. We continue to tag it. So far, we're still above it, and we're finding support right now at the 50 period moving average, but there's risk of a bigger drop, or again, we could still be under construction here with a right shoulder. It could still be under construction, or could be wrapping up if that's the right shoulder, if that's it. But again, just some things to be watching. It still may be under construction. We still may see a bigger pullback or a possible reversal. We're looking for clues. Warned you about the sell-off with these divergences before it happened, and I told you we were getting warning signs at that resistance level that I talked about in the weekly time frame. Now this is something that I've been watching, and again, kind of interesting. I wanted to share it with you. Here after the low at 52,000 back in September, saw momentum turn back to bullish, getting back above this dotted purple line right here. And it was validated. It was later validated with momentum going positive here. And we saw a push upward. And then we saw a pullback. That's when we went back to test the 100 period and the 50 period moving average. Remember I talked about that? And we created these lows right here, this little miniature double bottom, slightly breaching this level of support right here. But again, we turned positive, and then we got a higher low and we backtested. We reverted right back into positive territory, bouncing off that dotted line. It has held as support up until right now. We've had this sell-off of 15%, and now it's acting as resistance right here. We moved back up, we bounced, and right now it's stalling as resistance, as we're now going negative. So notice here again that we have seen confirmation. My signals have been consistently bullish, mild pullbacks along the way. All the weekly signals turn back to bullish, but again here going into positive territory here, going into positive territory, and then consistently staying in positive territory here until right now. So again, if we go negative, we can see a bigger sell-off, can give us a larger pullback or a possible reversal. But this right here is resistance right now for Bitcoin. About a reversal at this trend line that has now happened, or I should say a pullback or reversal, we don't know which. But again, we still may end up clearing this level. This is the 2017 peak, the 2021 peaks there, and again we slammed right up into it, slightly overthrowing it. We got rejection there, excluding the shadows over here, connecting 2017 to the 2021 top there in November. Still might form a divergence in this most recent price action. This is the linear scaling in the weekly time frame. We've got divergences on a lot of indicators. The MACD's moved to new high, but other indicators still have divergences like the price oscillator. Now, in the weekly time frame with our log scaling, we're turning off the trend line here from the 2021 low, separating the two 2021 peaks and connecting that with the lows there in early 2022, excluding the shadows. We came up and we were turning off that level. If we go a little higher, we could slam up into the upper channel line. You could still see a divergence develop here on the RSI in the most recent price action here. We have a larger divergence with the peak over here from the March high. That's exactly what we have right here. Now, again, the reversal would be that is the peak, and we start seeing, the weekly signals all begin to turn bearish, and you get something like what you had over here. You had a divergence followed by this another reference point. You didn't get one right here in the most recent price action at the 2021 peak there in November, but you built upon the previous one from back earlier in 2021. We have that right now. It could be that we build upon this more and we get a divergence right here, right now, here, possibly going into January that we see that happen and hitting this upper channel line. Certainly possible. We're starting to see distribution, but again, we can still go to higher levels and still see more distribution as we go higher. We're just starting to see distribution take place. If we zoom out, we could see again the potential diversions that could form right here in the more recent price action on the RSI. Again, we continue to have a 20-50 bullish signal in the weekly time frame, meaning that we continue to be above the 50 level here on the RSI, and we continue to be above the 20-week moving average. It's a 20-50 signal, a bullish signal, again, that was triggered when we got back above the 20-week. We eventually saw the RSI move back here into positive territory, and it's remained that way. So you have a 20-50 signal. Do we reach that upper channel line and get above this trend line? Very, very possible. But it is possible that these lows are pointing to the next high if we stall out and begin to see weekly signals turn bearish. I think you got a good shot at reaching the upper channel line. But again, as I talked about, that these lows over here were pointing to the next high. That was the case. Would that be the case here? We'll see what happens, but I think you got a good shot at Bitcoin reaching this level. If it does, it can go, depending on when it reaches the trend line, it could go to 120 to 125,000. We're taking our time over the last several weeks. We didn't reach that trend line immediately. Remember, I talked about it being closer to 115,000 if we reach it immediately. Well, we didn't. So the further to the right of the chart you go here, the trend line rises and the target increases. The target number is not the objective target range. The trend line is. The trend line is the target whenever we come into contact with it, should we get above this trend line right here. Again, we've got these divergences that are forming. They may not be done, as I've said. We still may see histograms tick back up and end up forming again a better defined divergence at higher levels. We may just be witnessing the start of distribution. We still may go higher and see more distribution. Watching, do we get a bigger pullback or not? So things to be paying attention to. I'm still watching the monthly chart and seeing how we close in the monthly time frame. Again, we had a rally, okay, and the rally fizzled out. We moved up to the 108,000 range, up to the trend line that we've seen, the two trend lines, the one with the linear scaling, the other with the log scaling. From the linear from 2017, from the 2021 low, turned off those trend lines. You have possible divergences, but like I said, it may not be done yet. I'll be watching what happens, what the close looks like by the end of the month here, which is just a few days away. If we get a topping tail, then again, we might not be able to reach the other upper channel line, but it is still very, very possible. You get a doji or a spinning top here. It could be a continuation or a reversal pattern, either one. When Bitcoin tops out and begins to turn, it'll start dropping below the 10-month moving average. You do have divergences in play here. Now, again, they may not be done yet, but you do have divergences in play here, indicators that are forming all over the place, everywhere. So, again, we're going to be watching closely the monthly chart. The MACD in the monthly time frame is moving higher, but you still have a possible divergence on the histogram. While the MACD in the monthly time frame is moving higher, the price oscillator and momentum are not. We'll be watching the monthly chart and what the bar looks like when we close in just a few days from now. If Bitcoin can rally higher in January to the upper channel line here in the weekly time frame with our log scaling, then again, it's possible that we rally up into this trend line going into Inauguration Day on January 20th. We could see a rally going into that or just ahead of that. Could be a sell the news event. Again, the rally has been surrounding the election results with the Trump pump, if you will. That's what it's being called. Again, the community likes President Trump's pro crypto policies, and we've seen this rally surrounding that. Do we see a move to this upper channel line? I think you got a pretty good shot that could be the case. Although I'm open-minded to reversal at the other trend lines. I'm just saying that this channel is a likely target for Bitcoin to complete a blow off top. We turned off of it in March, and now we could reach it once again. And if we do, we can form another divergence in the most recent price action on the RSI in the weekly time frame, a larger divergence with the peak over here. So again, it's very, very possible. And again, let me repeat, the trend line is our target. The trend line is a target. Now, again, we didn't reach it immediately. I talked about the 115,000 area or just under it. If we reached it sooner rather than later, we did not. That's been over many weeks here. You can see over the last 6 weeks or 7 weeks, if we go back here, we didn't reach this trend line immediately. Stalled out. We went a little bit higher, stalled out, formed a divergence on the daily chart, and just have kind of in this trading range in the 90,000 area, in the 100,000 area, above 100,000, dropping back below it, and that's where we've been. So I still think we can reach this level. Now, again, the trend line is our target, not a number. I talked about 115,000, 110,000. If we had reached it sooner, it goes higher the further right you go to the chart. And right now, you're looking at each week this trend line is rising. So again, we're looking at just under 120,000 if we were to reach it immediately. But if we go on into January, and we're looking at, if this drags out into first half of January, the latter half of January, you're looking at 120,000 to 125,000 or so coming in there, somewhere in that area. So again, the trend line is the target, not some number. Haven't come into contact with it yet. I still think you got a good shot that's going to be the case. Again, my weekly signals, which are correct, remain bullish. Could get a bigger pullback, that's certainly possible, and still reach that level. Or again, you could get a reversal off the trend lines I've been showing you. I think there's a strong possibility we still reach this upper boundary or even overthrow it just a little bit. So again, just something worth paying attention to here in the weekly time frame. Channels in the weekly time frame seem to play out over and over again. We had the decline, the 2021 top. We formed this channel right here, eventually broke out of this downward trend line and back tested it, breaking out of that channel and now forming this channel in the rise. So again, it's likely that we're going to move towards this upper channel line. The weekly signals remain bullish. Even though the daily signals had turned back to bearish with the divergence in the daily time frame, turned off the trend lines I've been talking about, we still have the weekly signals bullish. Now, while everybody's saying, oh, Bitcoin's going to be going to 250,000, 350,000, 500,000, going to have a hard time doing that with recession that's likely about to start in the first quarter or second quarter of 2025. The recession indicators are already flashing. Again, I believe the recession indicators. Powell is dismissing them. Powell is saying, oh, we're only going to have 2 cuts. That's what they're estimating for 2025. That's going to dramatically change, and they're going to pause in January supposedly, and eventually they're going to have to do emergency cuts because focusing on inflation rather than on the recession that's about to start. Same mistake that they made back in 2007 and 2001. In both cases, they did emergency cuts immediately. Finally realized that their soft landing nonsense is a myth and fairy tale, wasn't going to happen. Fed is usually oblivious to these things, but these trend lines, this is again our linear scaling here in the weekly time frame. We're turning off of it. If we can clear these levels, you can go to that upper channel line. Trend lines could act as a top if we start seeing some real weakness in the weekly time frame and a bigger sell-off. Flips the signals back to bearish. We'll be watching. Bitcoin slightly lower for the week right now, down 0.39%. But again, we've tried to bounce off this trend line from the 2021 highs, getting rejection off of the trend line from the 2020 low here and slightly overthrowing it there in the weekly time frame and turning down off of it. Again, if we get a bigger pullback, you've got your 10 and 20 week. The 10 is a red, the 20 week is a blue. You've got the peak over here from the March high. You've got below that, you got 69,000. If we end up trying to get a bigger sell-off, if we just pull back and try to bounce off the 10-week or off this trend line, again, you got to be able to clear this level. If we can go on into January here, then you could go up to that upper channel line I've been talking about if we can clear this level of resistance. But you've got the risk is you get a top at these trend lines of resistance and a topping tail on that monthly time frame that starts a reversal. If we can clear this level and say the monthly chart gives you a continuation doji or spinning top and it's a continuation, we can still make it to that upper boundary channel line that I've been talking about on the log scaling, which I showed you on the chart by itself. Here it is with the trend line from the 2021 low. Again, if we clear this level, then you have this upper channel line, and again, that could take us to 120, 125, depending on when we come in contact with it. Again, the last 6-7 weeks, we have not been able to reach it. We've stalled at this trend line right here, which I've talked about. That was the target that we had just underneath this upper channel line. I've been talking about both of these. I talked about this trend line right here from the 2021 low and the one from 2017 with our linear scaling before we ever reached them. And when we did, I told you we're likely going to see a reaction there unless we can clear those trend lines immediately. Try to do it right here, and it failed. And that's why I sent out that red alert video when we hit that trend line. Be watching, do we get a mild pullback or a bigger pullback, and then can we eventually move above those trend lines and reach this upper channel line? We are seeing distribution now with this selling pressure that we've had this week and the previous week. We are seeing distribution. That's this little red arrow right here showing there's distribution. We've had accumulation since these lows over here at 52,000. Now we're seeing some distribution. Now, again, that could lead to a reversal. It could be that we're just starting to see distribution and we still go higher like we did over here. I talked about this in the last video where we go higher, we start seeing distribution into the rally. We saw it a little bit over here, but again, I'd be able to clear those trend lines of resistance that we're turning down off of to be able to get to this level. I think you got a good shot. We still reach this upper channel line, but we are seeing distribution right now off of the trend lines that I've been talking about before we ever reach them.